I'm making this little recording to show you another alternative learning project that I've done for many years. I developed it at Lane because I was teaching 203 quite a bit, and I have used it in 103 courses, 103 and 203 here at Lane, and also in the 103 courses that I used to teach in the summertime over at the U of O. It was as extra credit for the summertime class. It is a bit time intensive. It usually takes students anywhere from an hour and a half if they're really fast and maybe messy, to 2.5 hours, depending on how precise they want to be. But what it is when they're done, is their own hand-colored geological map of Oregon. Dr. Bill Orr and Elizabeth Orr are the authors of the I don't know how many volumes of the Geology of Oregon. And that book inspired me to put together this project. I've separated the state of Oregon into the different physiogeographic provinces that he used when he developed his version of the Geology of Oregon book. So I'm going to switch to the document cam so I can show you the different parts, and then a final produced product by one of my students in the last couple of terms who did a really good job. Screen share. Okay. Well, first of all, we have a outline map of the state of Oregon. And this is photocopied on a 8.5 by 11 by 17 piece of paper. Now there's going to be a title on the top of this, or at least somewhere on it. And so this page is one that I developed that gives the students the title of the project, which they're going to have to fit somewhere on that, towards the top, hopefully, of that 11 by 17 page. And then there's some details about the different provinces, because we do have some parts of Oregon that have either the same type or very similar types of rocks of same age or similar age that have been deposited in those areas. And so if you're going to make a geologic map, then all of the rocks of a certain age and type should be colored the same. So that's what it goes through here, is that the Columbia River basalts are found in the Willamette Valley Coast Range, the Deschutes and the Blue Mountains provinces. So they should all be colored the same. The Mesozoic plutons of the Nevadan age have exposures in both the Klamath and the Blue Mountains. Okay, so those are going to have the same color. The actual background color of the majority of the exposures in the Oahe province, the high lava plains, and the Basin and Range province, they're all about the same age, and they're made out of the same material, so they're all colored the same. We have eruptive centers from the passage of the Yellowstone hotspot underneath that part of Oregon in both the Oahe and the Basin and Range that should be colored the same. And then back in the Pleistocene, a lot of the southern part of the state had pluvial lakes, and they had deposits in those lakes that are very much lake deposits. And so we have a pattern on the Oahe and the Basin and Range provinces that indicates those Pleistocene lake deposits. And of course, they'll have to be all colored the same. Now, the Calamus Mountains, being that it is an accreted terrain, it has certain things that are found. So ophiolite sequences are found in several different places in the different sections of the Klamath province. And so I've given details about how to color that province piece. And then of course, in the high Cascades, we have a lot of basalt. And then we have these either modern volcanoes or like Crater Lake here, of these stratovolcanoes that are made out of different types of rock, kind of pimpling the crest of the High Cascades province. So let me show you now. I have a large page that when I do this project, all of these puzzle pieces are on a 8.5 by 14, and I cut them out by hand. But I'll show you the different provinces and put them on this base map so you can see where they go. Each province has a legend box that goes with it, so the students are instructed to color them together so that they can be sure that the same color here is going to show up here, and so on. Let me start with a different piece. So this is the Klamath Mountains province. Okay, there's 4 different sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's those kind of lenses of color that are the representing the ophiolite sequences that are found down in the Klamath, and then these 2 here are those Nevada and orogeny exposures. So here's the detailed legend for that, and so that should go hopefully somewhere down here in this corner, because the province legends should be as close to the actual province as they can get. Also over here on the west, it's the Coast Range. And these legend boxes, I've left a little bit of a spacing around. They can be clipped some so that they fit better in the surrounding space here. Okay, so the fit isn't necessarily perfect, but we can fill in with pen later on to fill in any spaces. And then we have the little sliver of the Willamette Valley here. Next to the Willamette Valley are the Western Cascades. And I emphasized to the students that they want to get all of their coloring done. In fact, I don't even bring the glue sticks out until I have them say, hey, I've got all my coloring done. You know, can I please proceed? High Cascades. Again, these we cut down so they could fit. Notice the white color here in the Coast Range, a couple of blobs down there on the, there are some Columbia River basalt exposures like that at Seal Rock. Here in the Willamette Valley, the hills around Salem and so on. And the other exposures over in the east. So let's go back down to the other corner down here. This is the Owyhee Uplands province. You can see those Pleistocene lake deposits and these explosive centers of mid-Miocene eruptive centers, mostly of rhyolitic ash falls and flows. Next to, across the bottom of the map, is the Basin and Range. So they'll color this background patterned business in these 2 and the one above it, the high lava plains. Those will all be colored the same. The Pleistocene lake deposits will be the same. The eruptive centers will be the same, but the rest of it is all different. There's Newberry there. And these are basalt lava fields. Notice that they are diagonal, whereas these are horizontal. And then down here in the Owyhee, we have some vertical, and those are the Jurassic metamorphic rocks that are exposed down there in the Owyhee. At the top of the map, we've got the Deschutes province. Again, a lot of this white, that's all that Columbia River basalt. Might have a thin layering of soil forming on it, but and then this is a kind of complicated one because it's another one of the accreted terrains. This is the Blue Mountains province. We have, of course, the in between all of the others, representing where it hasn't gotten eroded down into the lower stuff of the Columbia River basalt. We have these little tiny pieces and some bigger ones of the Mesozoic plutons. And then we have the Old Sperry terrain, the IZ terrain, the Balawa terrain, the Baker terrains, the B's, And then the grindstone terrain, which is the G's. Right over here. And then on top of that, I don't have a picture. I don't have I don't have a legend piece for the Deschutes here. But on top of that is this. And this is the Central Oregon Volcanics, which is basically the Eocene Clarno and Oligocene John Day. And then there's a little tiny Cretaceous dome of phyllite that sticks up through. And so I don't cut these apart because they're so small. I don't want them to miss these two. So that's one of the last things they do is they cut all these pieces apart, and then they put it on top of and around the Blue Mountains province. Okay. So you could shift these pieces around somewhat so that there's still plenty of room left towards the top of the page for their title. And when they get done, hopefully they'll do it all correctly, and I won't have to mark all over it with, this is missing the student's name because I was making it public. So a little bit rough on the title, but better than some. And so you can see, here she has the Coast Range at the top here. Willamette, she put the Western Cascades in the middle here, and the high, and then Klamath. So maybe not the best positioning, but still okay. High lava plains, which is this one here. Basin Range, which is this one here. These two should have been shifted. This is the Owyhee, so it should be here. Here's the Blue Mountains, all these different little colors in here. The Central Oregon Volcanics, most of it says blue, and then that little tiny triangle of red, and then the Deschutes. So she's got all this gray, both in the Blue Mountains, the Deschutes, the Willamette Valley, and the Coast Range is the outcrop of that Columbia River basalt. The arrows that were on the outside of the piece of the Basin Range, once they get done coloring, then I have black pens and they'll transfer the arrows right above and then clip this little tiny piece off, because I found that depending on the colors that people use, by having those black arrows already part of the print coming from the Xerox, the colors can often mask those arrows, whereas if we put them on top with the black ink on top of the color, they show up a lot better. So yes, and everything, the legend boxes aren't necessarily placed everything that I might want them to be, but other than that, her coloring, she paid very good, they paid very good attention to everything and did it correctly. The Mesozoic plutons are the same color in both provinces. The two ophiolite sequences are the same color, and then they're surrounded by two different things because the other rock in those two parts of the Klamath is different. She had all of the striped, the diagonals, the horizontals, and the verticals all different, because even though they were striped, they're not the same rock, so on. So did a really good job. Most people find it, very, very few people have complained about why I'm making them do busy work. I've often used this for a lab, like a kind of almost a cumulative lab after they've heard a lot of different geological terms and discussion of geologic time, both worldwide and in the Pacific Northwest. And they've gotten used to the fact that geologic maps are made to have different colors for different ages and types of rock. And like I said, very infrequently have I ever had anyone not be happy to do this project. Usually it's the people who are in the class who are just taking it because it's the only thing that fit their schedule and they don't really care about geology anyway. But if anyone is interested in geology at all, and especially if they've been here in Oregon or spent any kind of time in Oregon, exploring in Oregon, this project goes over really, really well, and people really like to do it. And then they get to take home something if it's really good, they can frame it or I kid them about giving it to their mom as a proof of what they've been doing in college. But they do seem to enjoy it. And I certainly enjoy it. A lot of times I'll do a map along with them to show them that it's really not that much of a chore to do it. And precision is not that difficult. Okay, so stop sharing. And then I'm going to close off my recording.